Ladies and gentlemen, now it's Too Late with Alan Mosley.
My body's doing that thing. Do you have this, Dave, where it knows you're about to do something important?
Oh,
and
yeah.
so suddenly, now I'm just falling apart. Just this moment. It's like I'm both dehydrated but also need to pee.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So anyway, hey everybody. Welcome back for another episode of It's Too Late. I'm your host, Alan Mose. Joined as always by everyone we're doing today is Dave Willamette. Dave, how are you doing? Dave.
Hey, I'm doing really good. A little tired. These weeks have been wearing on me, but I'm excited to be here, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Real quick, we haven't been doing a lot of viewer mail lately. Brooke asks, Alan, are you drinking pure red 40? Yes. I don't believe that gobbledygook that Kennedy says. So I don't put the coloring in the water. I just drink the coloring.
Resist. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the comic books, the dude, crashes into the nuclear waste and they get superpowers. So I'm just bottoms up. See what happens.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? You know what I mean? Yeah. By the way, Dave, if you're wondering why we're on this screen to start the show as opposed to the full camera, it's because I adjusted the camera and now I can't. The button's not the same. and
So
the audience doesn't know that you haven't been doing anything in like a month. Yeah, so
You're ruining the magic.
yeah, I know. Well, put it on your note that I need to fix the buttons because I changed. You know what it is? As I'll actually show you. I lowered me. I'm like you see how you can see that bar right there.
Yeah.
You used to not be able to see that because it was higher up. And I was literally slouching on my desk in order to be in the frame because if I sat up straight, my head was off the screen. And finally after like 6 months of slouching, I realized I could just move the camera.
Yeah, that was always allowed. Yeah.
There's no regulation that says that has to be there. I could do this. Look all this. I could change all this. We could just quit, y'all. We could just stop the whole thing. Yeah, don't threaten Dave with a good time.
I'm really good at quitting.
That's the most excited. That's the most excited I've ever seen you. Well, anyway, a few things that I wanted to talk about before we move on to tonight's guest, which is a fantastic guest. I think you guys are going to be delighted to see who it is. I'll tell you what, Dave, you and I have talked about this before. I just get so bored, I guess is one way, disgusted is of talking about just all the doom and gloom in the world. It's like, oh, here we go. Oh, we're going to go to war with Iran. And you see the memes of like, man, born too early to deploy to the Middle East, born too late to deploy to the Middle East, born just in time to deploy to the Middle East. And and the economy and inflation, and it's like, we could have done a show tonight about any of those things, and we could have done a show last week about those, and we also could have done a show next week about those because they're going to be, you know what I mean? They're going to be there.
Evergreen.
So I want to do some more shows about helpful things. You know what I mean? About people doing things and building things and making things and, doing like actionable change in the world. And we just started our friend Hunter Dorenzis on last week. We talked about Defend the Guard. And so we have someone on this week to talk about some good things, some good positive change in the world. But before we do that, I want to talk really quickly about our annual live event. That's right, the 8th. It's Too Late live show, Saturday, May 16th at the Riverbend Ranch and Retreat in Normandy, Tennessee. You got to get your tickets. The links are down in the show notes. They're online. It's not hard, but you do have to get your tickets because we actually do have limited space this year. And I think we're just a hair over 50% capacity right now.
Going fast.
Yeah. We're a hair over 50% capacity, and that's with some notable individuals having not gotten theirs yet, and they know who they are.
What are you guys doing?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's Saturday, May 16th. Get your tickets. It's going to be a great time. I had a whirlwind into the week last week. Boy, I tell you what, we did the show last week, and right as I was getting ready to do the show, I actually got a couple of crazy notifications. The first one was that my Uncle Mike had passed away. And that was, it obviously sucks. He was not old enough. It's like, it's weird. Sometimes when somebody passes away, and I'm okay, by the way, please don't do, I'm sorry for your loss bullshit. In lieu of flowers, buy tickets to the 8th annual It's Too Late live show. But when somebody passes away who's like 92 years old, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
It's not that you're not sad that they're gone, but it's like, they had a full life, and they, they did all the things, and they saw all the people, and it's just a understandable part of reality. But when somebody dies who is not quite to that stage of life, it's like, well, that's unfortunate, because they had more to give. And people, I think something that's very common that people say and think around funerals is that, well, there's things I would have liked to have said or done or whatever, but I didn't, and that's my fault. But in my defense, I thought we had more time, right? That's what I thought we had more time. And that was the case with Uncle Mike. He was 64 or 65. Yeah. And let me tell you a few things. But you guys didn't know Mike, and Mike wasn't like a fixture on this program or anything. But I just wanted to say really quick. Lore. Yeah. No, he's not in the lore. He's like this. So Mike is like someone from the prologue that you guys didn't meet. Mike worked for the railroad for 42 years. For 42 years, he'd only been retired for a few years. Worked for the railroad for 42 years, and he worked on the road, which you get paid more money to work on the road rather as opposed to working near your home. But that, of course, that means you're away from home, you're away from the family, from the kids and stuff a lot. And but he did that because he wanted to provide for them, doing man shit, as you do. And for people who are Southerners or Southern adjacents, you'd understand the phrase. When we say Mike was a good one, he definitely was. He did everything right. People have fond memories of him. My personal favorite memory. You got to understand something. Mike was from Summertown, so people talk like this. It's from Summertown. If you folks who have come from around the country to visit me at our annual live events think, oh, Columbia, how quaint. This is a small southern town. And look at Allen, what a redneck. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go to Summertown this year. We'll just pass through. We actually won't come to a complete stop.
Oh.
Yeah. Just please stay. Keep your hands in the windows at all times. Yeah. He was from the country. And love to hunt, love to fish. But my favorite story of Mike, Mike's wasn't the kind of guy that was gonna play board games and do nerdy stuff. He's showing up to the family gatherings, wearing camo every year. But I remember when I was a teenager and we were having, it was Thanksgiving or Christmas. It was one of those, and we were playing that game, Gestures. You ever played that game where you can't? You can't talk, like you get a card and you pull out the card and it has a word on it and you have to try to act out the word without making any sound, and they're like trying to guess the word. And I have never, boy, you want to talk about, Mike was just beat red watching. It had nothing to do with him. He was watching everyone else, and he couldn't get the words out to guess a word because it's just like he was in that place where you're laughing so hard that it's not a laugh, it's just a wheeze. It's like a like that. And I thought, like, this is a medical emergency. Mike needs help. But what it was he couldn't breathe, which I guess is a medical emergency if you think about it. But it's because he was laughing so hard. But it was so great to see someone who would not normally engage in those things, kind of coming out of the shell, so to speak. And it was so much fun. But and his son Kendall just absolutely crushed it at the funeral with things that he said about his dad. And so that happened at the same time that I was on TV.
Quite a roller coaster, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I actually told some people, I was like, y'all aren't going to believe this. And I took some pictures from here in my little home studio. I was actually on RT on Crosstalk with Peter Lavelle. Yeah, that's actually me right there. Yeah. Damn, I look sharp too. Tell you what. Historian, podcaster. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I was, look at me on that big thing. Look at that.
Yeah, that ain't a green screen, is it?
Yeah, boy, this is the kind of studio you and me need, Dave. Need to get a whole bunch of video monitors and yeah.
Oh, why not us?
So anyway, I was on television talking about Epstein stuff. So I guess somebody who works for their program must have read something that I've written, because they were like, "Hey, do you want to come on the show?" Ironically, that was actually the second time that I was invited on the show, because the first time was back when we had the ice storm. Remember that? The whole big winter event that went through the country. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be such a huge drag if I committed to be on this program and then like we had, power outages and whatever, because they would, that would just suck. And so I had told them, well, if you check the forecast, you'll see we're having like a big weather event here. And so I just don't think it would be a good idea for me to do. But, hey, keep me in mind. And they said, okay, cool. And I thought, man, that was a mistake. I immediately thought, oh, I messed up. They're never, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
Who do you think you are? Like they're never going to call me again, except for they did. Yeah. And I had a good time. It was fun. Maybe they'll have me back. Maybe I'll be on some other programs. Who knows? But yeah, it was certainly an experience. For anyone who's ever watched like a panel discussion TV talk show thing, that when you account for like, commercial breaks and, the other speakers and all that stuff, like I basically only spoke 3 or 4 times for a few minutes, it's, but I had fun. And then it aired, and I got the tape and all that stuff. And so, who knows? Well, maybe this is it, Dave. Maybe this is how we finally break out. Is, I go on TV to talk about some bullshit I made up and wrote an article about, and, yeah.
Right on.
And they actually, but good news, Dave. They did actually mention, and Alan is the host of It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. They did say that, but they didn't say with his good friend Dave. They didn't. They left that part out.
That's fine.
Yeah. I didn't.
Just a small part.
Yeah. No. I don't think you wanted to be connected. No,
it's fine. I'm just helping out for a little bit.
Yeah, a couple weeks.
Producer.
Yeah. But they always say, that it comes in threes, right? Like people die in threes, which is ridiculous because more than 3 people die like every minute. So it's kind of ridiculous that they say that, but they do say that. And then after all of that, we get the news that Jesse Jackson died. Jesse Jackson, which I don't remember the last time I saw him on TV or anything. Do we have a picture of Jesse Jackson? Yeah, there he is. That's Jesse right. Jackson. That's Mr. October himself, 5-time World Series champion.
Yeah.
Boy, what a hitter. Yeah, like 563 home runs. We're going to miss him. And then, boom, we got the third. A shame our friend Hunter wasn't here because he's the big movie buff. Robert Duvall. Yeah. Robert Duvall passes away, 95 years old. There he is, leading the Army of Virginia. Actually, if you want to know a funny thing, Robert Duvall played Robert E. Lee in the movie, the 2003 film Gods and Generals, but also he actually is a descendant of Robert E. Lee. Yeah. And so for people who were like, damn, he made a great Robert E. Lee in that movie, he looks just like him, it's because he is. So how about that? Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I hope, Dave, if you get cast for a movie, they just have you play Polish bystander number 4.
I think, yeah, I can nail that.
Yeah. I mean, you're a dead ringer. Yeah. No. That was way too much emotion in the face. No. Yeah. Yeah. Barely recognizable from a normal day, I think is the correct. Yeah. Slightly off put. That's the that's the answer. Well, we're out of time.
That was a great show. That was good.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think we nailed it this week. But don't go away, because we're actually going to be back right after this commercial break. Stay tuned.
So for people who aren't in wheelchairs and have no idea what somebody goes through,
it's typically not the person who's disabled or their doctor who gets to decide what equipment they get. You end up with intermediaries. You have PTs, OTs, and then you have the provider, which is a middleman company.
Do we think that that's enough for you to be in that chair then, even though you're the one with the issues? There's nothing that it's empowering the disabled community to go out and do it themselves, except right now the competition that's trying to enter, which would be MIF.
We're doing open source DME because of the length of time it takes for repairs. And instead of waiting 2 years for a wheelchair, it might be 2 months.
Thomas Queter from Mount Upton, who has a rare disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, is aiming to help those who have disabilities.
What I hear most often from people is, I'd like to be able to leave my home.
You don't find yourself going places because you worry about your equipment working or not working.
what we want to accomplish with open source designs is we want those designs to be out there. What you want to do with the chair will be up to you.
Why should I trust someone else's opinion of what I need in a wheelchair when I'm the one with the best understanding of my situation?
Disabled people are consistently let down by the systems that are supposed to support them.
I want to see a better world again. I want to see better people being better to each other.
We don't have to leave people behind. We have the means to figure out how to not only survive, but thrive.
I founded the Mobility Independence Foundation because the best way to help those with disabilities is to endow them with what they need to help and include themselves.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Our guest this evening is the founder and president and crash test dummy of the Mobile Independence Foundation, 501c3 nonprofit technology organization dedicated to enhancing accessibility for individuals with disabilities by developing and freely sharing open source mobility solutions. You can find them at themif.org. Also, check out their feature documentary, The Power to Move, the long overdue fight for mobility independence, which you just saw that trailer. Also joining him today is the vice president of the MIF and a longtime friend of It's Too Late. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Queter and Matt Lacey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having
Alan,
us.
how you doing?
I'm doing. Of course, for all of our friends who do come to our annual live events, I'm just as shocked as you are, but Matt's got at least a few months to shave. So thank you, Matt. Thomas, I have actually heard of you many, many times. We have a lot of mutual friends, so I'm fairly familiar with your story and the foundation. But for folks who might be tuning in for the first time and have never heard of you before, tell us a little bit about what the Mobile Independence Foundation is and how it got started.
So, this actually started because I had reapplied through the systems that be healthcare for the same wheelchair I'd had several times before. And it was still on the market, but I got denied because there were changes to the healthcare system and the regulations to insurance. I fought that appeal for I forget how many years, and I actually won that appeal 1 month after the company stopped making that wheelchair because they couldn't sell it. The only customer is the government, right? The government or the insurance companies. It's kind of the same thing now, and interestingly, I spent roughly 5 years splitting my SSI income, which is very low. It's about $12,000 a year right now, between automating my home so I could be prepared to be stationary for the rest of my life and looking for parts to keep the wheelchair going. And in the search for parts, I actually found that very wheelchair I needed It's only been used for 16 hours. Up for sale on eBay for $4,500 plus shipping from Austin, Texas, which is near where they were manufactured. The interesting thing there is when you're on SSI, your ability to save money, even the SSI they give you, is limited. Not allowed to have more than $2,000 in the bank. So how am I going to spend $4,500 on a used wheelchair? I made a joke of it on social media, and two friends of mine, one in person and one a few houses down the road, who messaged me right within the same few minutes of the conversation, started telling me that I should let them crowdfund it. And crowdfunding is something I had done for other people with disability situations over and over and over again, but I never really thought to apply it to myself. So they spent about 3 days having that argument with me and convinced me to let them crowdfund it. And the interesting thing is, getting a new wheelchair through healthcare systems never took less than 2 years for me because I need a custom powered chair. And to verify that, there's a lot of appointments, there's a lot of professionals involved, there's a lot of government workers involved, and it's just arduous. Interestingly, strangers on the internet got it for me within 2 months. That's
Sure.
Raised the money, shipped it, modified it for my needs, and I was going again within 2 months. And people like to say, well, of course it only took 2 months, it's already made. Well, every other wheelchair the system provides is sitting in a warehouse when you start the process. So the ridiculous thing is that it doesn't take that long to build a wheelchair, let alone acquire one. What takes all that time is bureaucracy, and it gets in the way. So here I am, right? I went from feeling like I would never leave my apartment again. I'm a farm boy, by the way, being trapped inside for 5 years when you've grown up on a farm that you love, that you work.
Sure.
That's just very demoralizing. So now here I am, and I'm familiar with the model wheelchair, and I know that I've got at least 8 years out of that chair. And I'm thinking to myself, what should I do with my life now that I have this? This is kind of amazing, because not only did I end up with that chair, but I ended up with Matt as a friend. And so when it comes to repairs, I just call Matt. When you need a repair to your chair through the systems, the average wait time is 5 months, and you can't really have an effective life if you're 5 months down every time you need a repair. And the breakdown rate of wheelchairs in this country is 50% of them every 6 months. So picture a life like that. Every 6 months or so, you have to sit still for 5 months. There's no way to hold a job. There's no way to get yourself off of welfare that restrains you. There's no way to have a purpose in life. And I'm not that kind of guy. I don't really give up. My tenacity is my saving grace to retaining my life. So I ran for office a few times on the issue, and surprisingly, nobody wanted to hear it. The left thought I wanted the poor and disabled to die, and the right thought I was trying to harvest more tax dollars. The reality is, nonprofit foundations, we take zero government money. We look for private grants and private money. And so far, I think last year, which was our third year, we topped about $500,000.
Wow.
A lot of that was outreach, which requires travel. And that outreach brings us universities that help us work on the problems, and engineers that volunteer. Last year, we reaped over $200,000 worth of volunteer engineer hours. And when you think about this problem and what it means to people, you realize that it's a problem that society can address. We have the skills. We have off-the-rack technology that we can utilize. And when you create an open hardware design or open source, that design can then be modified for any use. I'm kind of rambling here, and I apologize. But I did start this organization with a badly made credit card and going to a not a political party event, but a political organization event. You might know
Mhm.
Students for Liberty.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
yep, it was their convention in Miami several years ago. That's I went there. Didn't have a filing with the IRS. We weren't an organization. I had a handful of people that were kind of, involved and gung ho about it, which included Matt. And I just started talking about it. And interestingly, I found a lot more interest than I expected. And now when we travel, we show the documentary, Abilities Exposed, where you have hundreds and even thousands of people with disabilities coming. And when we talk about the problem and offer a solution that we're going towards, they all get it. Every last person in a wheelchair understands what we're doing and why. They
Mhm.
suffer the same things. They're desperate to get off of welfare. They're desperate to find their purpose. They're desperate to move forward in life. The basic constitutional rights, the right to pursue happiness, the right to retain your life, the basic rights of commerce. But we're all denied that when we're stuck on welfare. That's what
Well,
those restrictions do.
it's interesting because just me and I'm very naive to the topic, but to me it would seem like it would be easy to find people that are sympathetic to the cause, because you just hear horror stories all the time, right, about the healthcare industry, about insurance, about bureaucracy. I mean, you'll struggle to find anyone walking up and down the street who is going to say, "Oh no, I'm perfectly happy with all of my providers, and I have never had to wait any long period of time, and the service that was provided was always excellent, and every appointment I've ever had was always on time and well maintained and all that." You just won't find people with those opinions. And so a lot of what you're saying right now is a lot of similar challenges that all manner of people have faced in all different facets of life. So you would think that people would be pretty sympathetic. So it's a little bit disheartening, I have to admit, to hear that when you first kind of broached, being more vocal and trying to kind of take this center stage on this topic, that you initially didn't have a lot of support on the stage. I'm like, I don't know. It's unfortunate to hear that. You would think that this would be a winning policy position. I don't want to speak for people on the left or the right per se, but people on the left generally tend to be sympathetic towards things. You think that they would be, and people on the right, I'm hearing what you're saying to me, and I'm thinking to myself, well, it's a double-edged sword, right? So the industry sucks. The challenges that you face are already bad enough, and now you're having to deal with government and bureaucracy and insurance and everything else. But you're trying to face these challenges so that you can be more self-sufficient, and get off of welfare or hold a job. You already talked about these things. You would think that this would be a winning policy position. It's unfortunate to hear that there wasn't more support for that.
Okay, so it was a state senate run in New York, and when I talked to those on the right, so we have to realize what political messaging does to the average person, not the political wonk or the intellect that studies these things and fully understands, but the average voter, what they see is, I'm not sure of your age, Alan, but do you remember the fast food hamburger commercials from the 1990s?
Yes.
You got this big, beautiful burger on the screen, right? It's juicy. The vegetables have color. Every sesame seed is perfectly placed. The bun is fluffy. But then you get on the outside, right? The other side of that drive-through. What do you have?
Yeah.
Not that. Not that.
Yeah.
Right? And our political messaging is much like that. You'll see Republicans run on lowering taxes and then raise taxes. You'll see Democrats run on increasing social issues, advancing those issues, and it won't happen. And so they're both effectively, whether they intend to or not, lying. And when you talk to the average person who votes one way or the other, they have a preconception. And a Republican voter would tell me, I don't want them to have more. They didn't understand that my policy points actually saved them money by removing the arduous bureaucracy. And they didn't understand that on the left, that a better solution that's more applicable, more timely, and built to a better spec and higher safety standards is actually better for those with disabilities. They also don't seem to understand that everybody needs a purpose in life. Welfare seems to give us this preconception that someone who's got a severe disability, which mine is considered very severe, that all they need is, that cable TV and their prescription pills and, I don't know, cheese doodles or something. And that's not a life. That's not satisfying. I'm a farm boy. I like to butcher dinner. I raise vegetables. I like to do things for myself. The desk that this camera is sitting on, it was originally the frame of a welding bench that my cousin decided he wasn't going to use. And so we got it and slapped some plywood on it. And I've got an old hardwood table slab here that's on tracks so it slides forward. We built that. It's a custom solution. And you can't find stuff like that on the market. And, when you do things for yourself, you get better outcomes. And that's kind of what our foundation is gearing towards. The designs that we're creating, the endurance power chair is something that I treat like a four-wheeler in the Catskill Mountains for 3 days before I have to charge it. And then it only takes 6 hours to charge. I'll let Matt talk about the other tech that's out there.
Yeah, I do. I want to bring. I do want to bring Matt on here really quick because I know, Thomas, when you told your story in the beginning there, and you said so you came to know Matt, and that was a big convenience for you because very nearby you have our maintenance wonderkin over here, Matt Lacey. Matt, from your perspective, with your experience with tech, with electronics, with anything mechanical. I imagine, I don't know for sure, you can correct me. I imagine you're kind of coming into this particular area of expertise, maybe with fresh eyes when you first meet Thomas. What was your take on things? I mean, as someone who's worked with their hands, which has done a lot of maintenance and industrial things, I mean, was your attitude, well, if we just made a few tinkers here and there, things would be better, or was it more, how do they get away with this crap?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's how do they get away with this crap? And everybody always has that thought in their head. Can't your insurance do this for you? Doesn't the government supply these things and those kind of thoughts? But when you get into reality, no, they don't. They don't do well at that at all. And the best thing you do is, so Thomas's chair, the biggest issues that you often have with chairs that become obstacles are your motors die. They blow out the gearboxes. Electronics get wet. Moisture is a huge problem in anything. Joysticks, depending on how they are, they wear out. All of these things are all replaceable. When you look at gearboxes in these, and Thomas's chair in particular, and the reason he shows it is because the gearbox in it the thing's almost bulletproof. I mean, and it's designed in such a way where the things that are going to break are easily replaceable, and those being the motors, and there's some outside gearing on it, as well as belts that are all very, very easy to replace in comparison to tearing the whole thing down to fix it. But the fact is I have no problem with this thing. It'll pull a car. Now, Thomas said that it has pushed trucks in the past. So the main portion of it is almost bulletproof. So then you're left with things like motors and electronic controls. And we've all watched, BattleBots shows. You've seen RC stuff that's, from tiny to large. I mean, people have done whole cars remotely if they wanted to. And everything anymore, you look at cars, it's fly-by-wire. Your steering's electronic now. It's not a direct mechanical like it used to be. The gas has been fly-by-wire for quite a long time, other than Toyota having their issue back in the day when they first started doing that. It's really been very, very successful. When you look at the open source stuff and the tools and utilities out there. You have microcomputers. We carry around a microcomputer in our phone to begin with, so you can buy Raspberry Pis, you can buy the Arduinos. All of these things they are little microcomputers. The Pi, actually, you can run Linux on a Raspberry Pi and have a monitor and have internet access and everything else. The Arduinos aren't at that kind of a level, but on a simple electronics, they're extremely complicated, where you have all kinds of options. You can write, 2,000 lines of code for those, and that's not a big deal to run for them. So there's a lot of things that are out there in the world today, and you're looking at something in all of these modern wheelchairs. It's like they lock up everything. You can't buy parts for them. It's very difficult, but we look now, you have 3D scanners. Go 3D scan stuff. Somebody that's good in CAD, take that scan, put it in CAD. They can design it. You can print it in plastic or metals if you know somebody that has that. If you know somebody with a small machine shop, and that's a lot about the designs and things we're doing, is we want them so you don't have to have crazy equipment, but if you know a few people with some equipment, that you can take that and go forward with it and hopefully improve it or adapt it, because obviously not everybody's the same. We all fit differently in every box.
Okay, so Matt's too modest. I'm going to chime in because Matt deserves more credit. If Matt hadn't had the voluntary mentality that he has to come fix my wheelchair, because he appreciated my political campaign and got to know me, which he drives 5 hours to come fix this chair, by the way. Without Matt, I'd be dead. The chair would have broke down. My health would have declined. I would have ended up going to the bed, which is basically a term that means you're entering hospice, a slow death, right? So Matt is my saving grace in life. And Matt's particular skill set, because of his wide range of experience with different kinds of mechanisms, is that I can put any kind of technology in front of him and he can figure out how it works, how to repair it, what we can replace it with that's off the rack. And that's a huge advantage. And that's kind of how we landed on the Endurance Power Chair. The one that was crowdfunded, we discovered the intellectual property was in the public domain. And I had the fortune of connection to the former IP team of Xerox. And they did a quick analysis for us and let us know that we're free to reverse engineer, upgrade, make it more buildable for a community to do or one person to do, and release it as open hardware. That gives us a severe amount of advantages. And we have a few people, like myself, who used that particular model of wheelchair. It's called an Omega Track, originally designed for Jim Finch. Jim Finch was an aeronautics engineer, as was his father and brother. They contracted for the Air Force. And Jim suffered an accident that left him a quadriplegic, and they went looking for a power chair. And they live in South Texas, right? And they don't live in an urban environment. And they were disgusted that there was nothing out there with today's technology and what's available everywhere, that there was no wheelchair out there for them that could actually facilitate any kind of active lifestyle while also tending to the needs of a permanently seated individual. Part of that became the reason that it was standard to have a tilt and recline seating system. And that helps you prevent your own pressure source, right? Which if you're permanently seated, that's an issue. But it also meant that it has power. There's another line of wheelchair that years ago, they had a advertisement. It's a picture of a very rugged individual, very strong legs, sitting in their wheelchair with a supposedly metal chain over his shoulder, which I don't care how big you are. If that was actually a metal chain, he'd be injured. and it was set up to look like he was towing a semi. I have push started to pickup truck, and I guarantee you that the endurance powered chair will tow a semi. And we're going to try that when we move forward this year, I hope. But the reality is, why are we not giving people the equipment they need when we have all of these resources? You know, a lot of those resources are spent on the bureaucracy. Part of that bureaucracy is things like in New York on disability welfare, I have to prove to different professionals 16 times a year that I am still disabled, despite my incurable genetic condition that will never go away. That's a lot of waste. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of time. It's a lot of man hours. And we can put those all to better use. So when we look at open hardware, we have this infrastructure in this country that we fail to realize. There are nonprofits struggling to repair and gift used wheelchairs away to people who need them because of the issues. And a lot of those nonprofits are on board with what we're doing because they get sick of having to repair the same crap over and over again. We've created throwaway products out of products that are supposed to replace your legs, and that's disgusting. So the movement is hot for several reasons. I'm a good example. The endurance is a good example. Matt's a good example. A lot of us are regular folk, but believe it or not, many of our participants in the organization and our engineers are living with disability. You'll see Devin Hamilton in the documentary. He's our lead mechanical engineer on the endurance. There's something else that I like to remind people of. We are the country that built a robot that we flew to Mars, that lasted on the surface of Mars for 14 years without being touched by human hands. And our wheelchairs break down at a rate of 50% every 6 months. Where are the priorities there?
Sure.
We can obviously do better. And some of my engineers tell me that when you open up the tech that's out there and other equipment, it's from the 1970s. Matt brought up cell phones a minute ago. What was your cell phone like in the 1970s?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
didn't even have them.
Yeah.
The closest thing I had was the radios in the military that had long reach at that point, you know.
And another great example is that, my ex-girlfriend's 10-year-old kid was teaching himself advanced robotics on YouTube. Right? We have a huge culture of self-learning being developed through the very platform that you're now watching this podcast. It's everywhere. You can learn anything you want.
I definitely want to emphasize that, and I'm going to open the floor to both you guys because Thomas, you might have some good answers, but I know Matt. I know if I had any tech questions, I'd be asking Matt. So Matt, that's why I'm glad you're here with us as well. Is that I want to emphasize to the audience that Thomas and Matt don't spearhead an organization that is running a factory that's producing a bunch of chairs. That's not what they do. And coming right from their website where they talk about their core principles is they are spearheading initiatives to figure out exactly why some of this technology hasn't advanced beyond where it is, how they could make it better. But most importantly, you guys aren't spearheading and engineering solutions and then selling it for a buck. You guys are doing all that work, and then you're just handing the files over to other people and saying, "Here you go, good luck." That right there is obviously incredibly rare.
So I'll speak to that real quick. Every community has people with the skills to do this. This is not rocket science. It's basic robotics. It's basic motors and wheels, right? I mean, the most basic wheelchair you can have is a frame with 4 wheels. That's what it takes. And then when you look at what your needs and the capabilities you want so that you can do what you want to do, you build up from there. And that's where the endurance really comes, because I live in the Catskill Mountains. I live on a farm. I want to manage that farm. I want to be able to hop a 6-inch curb so I don't get hit in the road, right?
Sure.
And if you can't do that, you're going to get hit in the road. And the reality here is that what we're doing is producing designs and the tools to build them and handing that to every community organization that's already involved in this across the country. And not only across the country, we have interest from third world countries. They can't afford the shipping and tariffs it takes to bring in equipment. They're often handed very shoddy used equipment from benevolent organizations that usually take your taxpayer money. The reality here is that those cultures, they don't quit. When you look at people in South America that have paralysis, right? They can't use their legs. Do you know what they do for those people? It's not a wheelchair. They sew leather patches into the front of their jeans, and those tough bastards drag themselves around their community, and they still work and they still survive. And that tenacity exists in people who haven't had it squashed by systems that tell them what they can't do. I'm sick of people telling us what we can't do. Right? I've had over 2,000 fractures in life, and I can tell you that with both of my arms broken, I can butcher the carcass of a large white-tailed deer from full carcass to vacuum sealed package in 5 hours. 5 hours. And it's a beautiful job. The reality is that having an injury, having an impediment, having a situation that makes things more difficult doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you have to be willing to do it. I got my first power wheelchair when I was 4 years old. First time I ran away from home, I was 3. And I've never stood up and I've never taken a step. And that's about mentality. That's about tenacity. I come from a poor farming community, and we don't quit, right? For a significant period of my childhood, I lived on a dairy farm that my father managed. If you weren't 15 minutes early, you were late, because sometimes things break. And that's the important thing that we need to realize about machines. Machines wear, machines break, and therefore machines need to be fixable. And if you're not allowed to fix your own wheelchair, which is the case in today's systems, then you don't own it, right?
Sure.
There's a saying, you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? And that's partly because the mentality is changed. So when you can't move, right, and you're given this free wheelchair and suddenly you can go get a glass of water, it feels amazing. I know, I've been there, right? That's an amazing feeling. And you're grateful. And it's hard to complain that you can't go outside, because all of a sudden you can get a glass of water when you need one. And it's a matter of perspective, and we need to change this perspective. We have people with disabilities like Devin Hamilton graduating as mechanical engineers. We have people who have the input to be able to do this better. And we need to subvert a system that is captured by regulation and insurance lobbying. Actually, private equity firms are a big part of this problem. Most equipment manufacturers are owned by 3 private equity firms, and that's why you don't see much variance between different companies. The other thing here is, if you touch it with a screwdriver and your insurance company finds out, they're no longer required to give you a repair, right? You voided your warranty. Sorry, you got to wait now.
And when we talk about repair, and we look at the endurance, part of what we're doing with the endurance, that's our big splash product, or the design that we're going to have out there. But it's not just a single design. We're taking the whole vehicle, and we're breaking it down into pieces. So we have the base and the transmission and the suspension. So that's like just what it's going to run on. Then we have the seating system, and then we have the electronic controls to run the motors and whatever other things that we may have in development or are working on to do. But it's all modular. And the fact is, if you have a base that you like, the whole intention here is to be able to take somebody else's product that you can't otherwise do anything with and put our pieces on it, adapt it to me, and work with the pieces that we're designing, so that you're taking that waste and making it useful again. And that's, what's better than recycling anymore? We are a throwaway world on so many occasions.
Sure.
And the endurance is that is our flagship. But we do have plans to do other designs for other types of bases for people. And we also have other things that we're going to work on, different kinds of products. And I'm sure Tom's just dying to mention the Roz Rover right now.
Well, hold on,
yeah.
really quick. I want to jump in here because we're already almost completely out of time. So we've talked a lot about where you guys are going. I wanted to make sure that we saved a few minutes to talk about where things are going from here, what we're looking forward to in 2026. So yeah, please.
So a quick point on the industries, right? There's all kinds of technology you can buy off the rack. I've never had a seatbelt on a wheelchair that was applicable for my situation. These are automotive seatbelts. We just put them on because last year we hit a deer in Kentucky and it injured me kind of severely. And now I have a seatbelt for when I travel. And that seatbelt is retractable and it doesn't fall into the wheels when I'm not using it. That's something you can do, right? It's an automotive seatbelt that we bought on the internet and applied, and now it's actually working. The other interesting feature is the suspension that Matt brought up. It comes out of the tractor trailer world. That's an airbag, and that's an air compression.
Wow.
That lets me have the softest ride that I need, or the firmest ride that I need, as well as some height adjustment. And it's $400 on the internet. That's where the key comes in. Look at other industries. Look what's available. Buy that. Use that. Apply it because it's already better. Now, in terms of what's coming in 26, wow, there's a lot. The Ross Rover is very important to me. As I said, I had my first wheelchair when I was 4 years old. And when you undergo these problems that we've discussed, the breakdowns, the wait times for repairs, that's not just affecting the child in a wheelchair. That's affecting mom and dad. They're taking time off of work. If that child is on welfare, that mom and dad's income is limited already. That's affecting that child's siblings, their peers, the school system. It's affecting all of that negatively because you can't repair your own car. With open hardware and mobility equipment that we are creating, you can repair it. Nobody's going to stop you. There is no hurdle between you and getting that repaired other than having the gall to pick up that phone and call someone in your community like Matt who helped you build it, right? When we talk about the systems, right, you're calling someone in a cubicle who's following company protocol and doesn't have options, right? That it's their job to become the press telling people they can't help them. The Ross Rover, this is a very interesting start to that project. A mother in New Jersey, child who can't walk. He can manage a walker for like 15 minutes and a manual chair for 45 minutes, but he's starting school and then he's got daycare after school. How is he going to get through the day if they won't provide him a power wheelchair? And when she went to the appointment where they figured out what kind of equipment he should have, the provider, which is a middleman company, straight up told her they're not going to approve it. They're not going to approve it because he could use a walker for 15 minutes. So apparently he doesn't need social development. He doesn't need schooling. He needs more disabilities, right? He needs cognitive impairment. He needs behavioral disorders because he can stand up for 15 minutes. And my father had a stroke and he was a farmer. And I watched him die slowly because he could manage a step or two and they only gave him a manual wheelchair. He lives on a farm. Watch the strongest, hardest working man who built a life, a family, give up and die slowly because they wouldn't give him appropriate equipment. With open hardware, we can create a community system through existing nonprofits that can build these things. We can create some equipment that mom and dad could build it. Or your loved ones or whoever. Maybe your employer values your skills so much that they want to build it for you. And it's possible. It's all possible. And so what we're doing is the Ross Rover, which is slightly named after the child in question. Mom sent me an email telling me this story of going through the insurance process and to the provider and all the trouble and many appointments they went through to get to the point where the provider told them they're not going to give him what he needs. And she could have gone through like the appeals process to fight it, but that would take 2 years. 5-year-old child grows a lot in 2 years. That's a lot of cognitive and social development in 2 years that he's going to miss out on. She didn't want that. She did the research. She sent me an email. I was busy doing something. I can't remember if I was butchering a deer or processing vegetables from something. I had my hands full, and it popped up on my phone, and I opened it and I read it, and I thought to myself, let's just send her an email. I'll call her in a couple of days. And I finished what I was doing, and what she said stuck with me so hard that I it was a little late at night, didn't care. I hit that number, I called. One of the things that she said to me, and if you're a parent that's had children, you'll understand this. She wants him to be able to go forth and cause mischief, and that's what children need to do to learn, right?
Sure.
We learn what hurts by experiencing it. We learn how people act by experiencing it, and if we don't have that, we create a cognitive delay. So if you go to our website and you find the Roz Grover fundraiser, you'll see it's already close to 10,000 in, and there are tiers for donations. One of our board members has developed a children's book that encourages children to think about solving their own problems. And when we impart that into a society with the resources that we have, the technology you can buy off the rack from a catalog from Walmart, wherever, then you're going to see that we're going to start solving problems that we don't need other people to solve for us. And we'll solve it better. And it'll be better equipment. We'll be able to do more. And that mentality needs to be set back into our society. I am a hillbilly, and I love that term, because that means we fix our own things, we make our own things, we grow our own things, and it's better. And you know what? Everybody can do that. So by creating the designs and the networks to get this done inside communities, we create not only better equipment or repairable equipment, but we create equipment that anybody can create, anybody can modify. The specific needs run the gambit of disability. You'll never find two people with the same disability have all the same needs. And that's why they get ill-fit equipment. The reality here is, if you can do better, you should. And I'm telling you right now, our society can do better. And we don't need a tax burden. We don't need government regulations. Wheelchairs make the top 30 most dangerous consumer goods list. Guns do not. And the FDA has a severe amount of safety regulation on this kind of equipment. There's actually one device out there that's on its 7th safety recall because it's known for throwing people into walls and downstairs. And it's just going to come back again and probably do the same thing again. That's ridiculous.
Well, I know that is a message that's going to resonate with our usual audience, which is even if government had more funds and promised to do something, government just does such a crappy job of everything that it does that we can't sit here and wait on government, especially when we have such talented people as you guys, as Thomas and as Matt, to do things for themselves. So I want to give you an opportunity really quick. Where can people go to support you, support the MIF, and learn more about what you're doing?
Well, if you go to themif.org, you can find our social media links on the bottom of the website. You can find the donor links for general support for the Endurance, which is almost ready to release. We had intended to release the Endurance Power Chair design sooner, but unlike government systems, we believe in doing our due diligence and making sure it's safe. And that's why I'm the crash test dummy. But you can look at all the projects we have going on. We have a manual wheelchair in development starting at Northeastern University. We have a seating system that started at University of Rochester and is getting finished at RIT. I was just at Georgia Tech. We've got opportunities coming up there. I met people from University of Texas at Dallas that were interested, and I just had a meeting with them. And on my next trip in March, on the way back, I will be stopping in Dallas to talk with them. Universities are hot for this. When you talk to students in engineering fields and you say open source, open hardware, their eyes light up. They know it's ethical. They know it's better than a throwaway product. They know it solves problems more than anything else. And they are interested. And, I'm going to point out one more thing because I am kind of an economic nerd. Other countries are developing open hardware, laptops, smartwatches, digital cameras even mobility equipment. There is one in this country that has created open hardware designs for earth-moving equipment. Yes, bulldozers and backhoes that you can build yourself that are cheaper and better and repairable. And that's a movement that's coming. And if this country doesn't pick up on that, we're going to fall behind economically. We're going to lose that race. And I believe that open source, open hardware, where we make things that work, that's what's going to save our economy, not only here, but globally.
Making things that work. I know that has not been at the forefront of American industry in some time. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thomas, Matt. Matt, I kind of feel bad because Matt has been sitting there this whole time like a trooper, about 90% of the time just staring at us while we yap at each other. I'll tell you what, Matt, I'll give you the final word. You got 30 seconds and we got to go. What are you most excited about this coming year?
Oh boy, what am I most excited? I'm excited that we're going to get some electronics in my hand. I'm going to be able to start putting them on one of our demo models we have around, the one at my house, and I'm going to use the hell out of it just because I can. Sorry about that, but I just can't wait to get that in my hands, put it on there, and do some really dumb stuff because, well, why not? I mean, why not?
I got to point out because Matt brought it up. Those electronics he's talking about, one of the engineers that worked on that Mars lander that lasted 14 years without being touched by human hands, yeah, that's designed by him.
How about that? Well, there you go. Thomas Queter, Matt Lacey, president, vice president, crash test dummy, and the guy that vows to do his best to try to destroy the tech before it reaches you. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
for having me.
We're going to be back to wrap up right after this commercial break. Don't go away. If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. Like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV. You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Alan Mosley TV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Alan Mosley TV. But if you're more of a listener than a watcher, you get us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice thanks to Spotify. It's Too Late with Alan Mosley or Alan Mosley TV. Don't forget to get your tickets to the 8th annual It's Too Late live show coming to you Saturday, May 16th at the River Bend Ranch and Retreat in Normandy, Tennessee. It's doing it again. Like I feel like I'm about to die in a desert.
Back on. Yeah.
Yeah. Good God. Dave, do you have a final thought?
I love that cause. Some of my favorite people there, Matt, amazing dude. He's worked on my car. He is handy. And yeah, Thomas. And just their cause that they're working for, just to be able to move, be able to go get a glass of water, leave your house, do anything. If you really think about it, it's amazing. And yeah, you guys go check out their site, help them out.
What's the thing is, I try to emphasize is, look, they're not trying to peddle anything. They do all the work and then they just give it away. So there you go.
Just give it away.
Yeah. How about that? It's like
Terrible
us, Dave. You and me, Dave. We just give all of this away. We put all this time and effort into making a show, and then we hand it over to you guys.
We're pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's certainly one way to describe us. Amazing in the sense that they are amazed at what they see us do
over and over, week in and week out.
After party, you think?
Yeah, I mean, got a little bit. It's not like I'm going to bed on time.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, well, we'll do it then. Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of It's Too Late. And we will see you next week. I know. Another one in the books. Episode 369. Yeah. Yeah. This show is so good we could send it to Mars for 14 years. That's right. Well, I'm glad something is. Shit. You know?